Greetings, 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 greetings. This is I, your king, King Clifford Jefferson, ascendant of Godfrey, the fifth kind of man Jew, son of folk, ruler of Jerusalem. I'm the reincarnation of King Exeter Peaceful, which we know here at the Third Temperament English Church as Jesus Christ. I'm here with another marvelous lecture for my brothers, my sisters, my heirs, my successors, my ancestors, my descendants, all those and all the above. It's a marvelous day for me to be able to bring this information to you on April 30th, 2024, which we know in the Berber year is 2974. Um, this one is going to be tailored towards understanding our roots of who we are or assumed to be as Americans. All right. That is a misnomer. You are a greater and more significant ancestry than you know uh, than you know of. Okay. And it was telling you this by what we call the movie Roots. All right. You had the 1977 ministerial view of the movie Roots, then you had the 2016 ministerial view of the movie we call Roots in regards to a fictional character called Kinte. Okay. Name called Kinte. All right. So I'm not going to talk too much. We're just going to listen to a narrative of those who are claimed to be scholars and know their so-called history, that I'm going to show you today in this lesson, they don't. Okay, so I always like to put the truth right in front of you and show them that the enslaver. Greetings, 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 Brother Stoney from the House of Stoney. Yeah, this one's going to be a very, 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 very beautiful lesson for our brothers and sisters. All right. Uh, the enslaver or the one who put us in position is very aware of the subject matter which I'm about to reveal to you. All right, but you have no clue of. So when you viewing these things or hearing these things or talking about these things, they always say out of sight, out of mind. Okay, so I'm about to bring this information back to your memory, and please uh, go and watch the movie Roots, the 2016 version. All right. After you watch this lecture, go back and watch the movie Roots, 2016, not the one from 1977 with the guy who played in Good Times, but the new one. All right. Watch the movie Roots, 2016. All right. We give honor to all those who uh played in these roles. All right, unconsciously, unknowingly, uh, willingly, all right, wish for a better life. But we know that within the secrets and within the hidden agenda, there is truth. And this truth I'm about to bring to you in regards to the movie Roots. Without further ado, let's get started with this beautiful, well sought out lesson. All right. I want to give honor to my queen, the Galveston from the House of Galveston, but she's the one to give me the ability to be able to plant my seed in the soil to go to who I am today. I'm going to give honor to my Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont, as well as all my officers, members, as well as all those who are engaged in understanding of who they are as Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay? Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Misnomer that's English, but we know English is a surname denoting to a separation of those who call themselves Saxons versus those who are called Ingles. We know Ingles is spelled many ways, which I'm not going to go through, but once again, we need to understand that we here at the Third Temperament English Church of England identify with the term as Anglo-Saxon Berbers. That's who we are. Okay. All right. So let's get busy. Please pay close attention. Roots is a 2016 American miniseries and a remake of the 1977 miniseries with the same name, based on Alex Haley's 1976 novel, Roots, the Saga of an American Family. Okay? The Saga of an American Family. The families are over in a place now misnomer as America, which follows an African man who is shipped to North America as a slave and his descendants. Okay? An African man who is shipped to North America as a slave and his descendants. It's first aired on May 30th, 2016, and stars Malachi Kirby, Forrest Whitaker, Anna Paquin, Lawrence Fishburne, Jonathan Rhys Myers, Anika Nani Rose, and T.I. I didn't recall seeing Lawrence Fishburne in that movie because I watched the whole series. I don't recall seeing him. I have to watch it again. But I did watch the whole series. Very good movie. Please, everyone, watch this. Plot. In 1767, Kunte Kinte, played by Malachi Kirby, is a young Mandinka man from Juffure and Gambia region in West Africa. Okay? From Juffure, which is a village in Gambia in the region of West Africa. So his village was called Juffure. Juffure is spelled Juffur. Let's just look at the certain pronunciations. Juffure. Juffure, also spelled Juffure or Juffure, is a town in Gambia, 30 kilometers inland on the north bank of the river Gambia, and northern bank near Kunte Kinte Island, also called St. Alexander Island. Okay, what is it? No, St. Andrew's Island. Okay, so Juffure is a village in a town in Gambia. All right, on the north banks of the river Gambia and the northern bank division near Kunte Kinte Island, also called St. Andrew's Island. The town is home of a museum in Fort Gilfrey. Okay, Juffure is known for its appearance in the Alex Haley 1976 novel Roots, the saga of an American family as the birthplace of Haley's ancestors, Kunte Kinte. After the publication of Roots, Juffure became a significant tourist destination. This led to economic benefits for the town, including the construction of an elementary school, a new market aimed at tourists, and improved roads. In 1651, a small plot of land from the village was leased by Jacob Kettler, the Duke of Cortland, from the King of Combo as part of the Concurian colonization of Africa. So you can see the territory of Juffure. All right, on the west of it is the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, all right. So this is the mouth from the Atlantic Ocean into whatever river this is. All right, and there you see the village called Juffure, or the town. All right, it says Juffure was part of the kingdom of Naomi, and by the 18th century, the town had become an important center of the Atlantic slave trade. Very important for us to understand that. All right, so let's go back to roots. In 1767, Kunte Kinte, Malachi Kirby, and young West Mandinka man from Juffure and Gambia region of West Africa. All right. So he was a young Mandinka warrior from Juffure. So Juffure is where he was from. All right. Very important. One day, Kunte is taken into the jungle with other Mandinka youth as part of their training to become warriors. During a test where Kunte is made to run through the jungle in a certain period of time, he sees a man dead body lying in the canoe. Kinte then sees the rival Koru family and another group of canoes hunting for slaves to sell to European slave traders. After returning home, Kinte reports his discovery to his teacher, who decided in light of this information that Kunte's training must come to an end. After undergoing an initiation ceremony and becoming a warrior, Kunte tells his father that he wishes to attend the University of Timbuktu. In response to his father's disagreeing with him, Kunte runs off into the jungle where he meets up with his lover, Gina. The two are suddenly surrounded by a Koro family who intends to ransom Kunte back to his relatives. However, Kunte managed to escape, killing one of the Koro's family in the process before being recaptured. The Koro family subsequently decided to sell Kunte and Gina to the crew of the Lord Linnea, a British slave ship. All right. So this is part one. All right. This is part one. But before we go any further, I just want to greetings, Archbishop Belmont from the House of Belmont. I just want to get a narrative from those who claim to be scholars and their syllabus based upon the movie Roots and what their understanding of it and how it affects us here in North America versus mine's interpretation of it. So let's go to it so that we can get some people who claim to research and understand and qualify the story in regards to us as an identity here in North America, but really have no clue of what it is that they're talking about. Okay, so let's see. Oh no, my screen's starting not to share again. Bear with me, y'all. Everybody bear with me for a second. I'm just changing my camera. Well, we only got 2 portions. Everybody bear with you can. Okay, I don't know what's going on with my video. Allow me to see myself, but okay. I don't know why I can't see what I'm talking about. For that, we're gonna continue to move on. All right, let's go to the video.
When we talk about
Everybody pay close attention.
When we talk about the wealth of the South, we're talking about wealth in enslaved human beings. In fact, those enslaved human beings in the pre-Civil War period range, depending on the year, between 15 and 20% of the total wealth in the U.S. That means that enslaved people are worth more than all the factories, all the stocks and bonds, and all the currency combined. A young man about 18, 19, 20 years old in New Orleans goes for anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500. If we account for inflation, that $1,000, $1,500 actually is equivalent to about $230,000 to $250,000. It's a ton of money.
And they are sold with no particular consideration to parentage.
You can't tell me to leave my family. I ain't going nowhere for you. You understand me?
There are very, very few cases where it disturbs the property relation. Men might acknowledge the biological tie, but they don't often recognize the kinship tie.
Thank you. Your Chicken George has skill. As one gentleman to another, I'd like to buy the boy from you.
Because slavery is so central to their economies, they become very invested in making sure slavery persists. And so that's where you get things like the idea that slave status is heritable through the line of the mother. The slave societies of the Americas are the most brutal and oppressive because they went so far in the direction of making slavery an enclosed system.
Different states passed laws trying to limit the freedom of slave owners to free enslaved people. But much more often, there were stipulations that a person who was freed had to leave the state within 90 days, within 6 months. That reflects a fear that free Black people, simply by virtue of being free, are dangerous to a slave society. And if you have too many free Black people kind of functioning in your community, they advertise the possibility of freedom to the enslaved population.
Just finding the power within that system to survive took a tremendous amount of courage. And it really is a testament to the human spirit that African Americans were able to survive that system and ultimately to be able to do great things coming out of that system.
It's time your family pay Kunte.
Run!
So everyone should go watch that movie, Roots 2016. But after you hear this lesson, all right? After you hear this lesson, I don't know why my screen's not showing me, but it's not supposed to be because it's supposed to show King Edgar the Peaceful Who won the reincarnation. So for that, I'm grateful. All right, so let's move forward. Let's go back to the roots. Okay. So in 1767, Kinte is a young Mandinka warrior from Juffure and Gambia region in West Africa. He's taken into capture by the Koro tribe, which is another group of people who live in Gambia, who live on the side of the river, who's actually taking part in what we call the slave trade. As a result of that, his father, Omoro, decides to end Kinte's training as regards of this predicament. And as a result of that, Kinte gets mad and rides off and to meet a lady named Jenna, who he's in love with, and ultimately gets captured by the Koro tribe and put in slavery and transferred over by British merchants. All right, not English merchants, but British merchants. It's very important for you to understand who we are talking about and the people who are taking place in this particular event. Now, Kunte Kinte is supposed to be a fictional character, okay? But he's taken upon an actual ship that was called Lord Ligonier, if that's if I'm pronouncing right. This is an actual ship, all right? So we're going to revisit this narrative to get an understanding, a concrete understanding based off the fictional understanding, because the American story here, regards to us here in North America, is depending on our understanding because they made the movie over twice. Okay. All right. We can make all the connections with Africa, Europe, etc. But they specifically mentioned and created a character called Kunte Kinte from the village or the town called Juffure in Gambia, West Africa. All right. Which is closer to North America than any other village, country, town over there on the African European continent. All right. The closest. All right. So he says he's taken aboard Lord Ligonier, a British slave ship. All right. First of all, let's look at the surname Kunte Kinte. All right. The last name or the surname is Kinte. All right. Kunte Kinte from Juffure or Juffure. Juffure and Juffure or Juffure is synonymously or close to Jeffrey. Okay. Or Jefferson. All right. Jeffrey, son. Being that Kunte Kinte was the son of his father Omari, he was a son from the tribe of Juffure. All right, we must understand that. All right, let's go to the word or the name or the surname Kinte. Excuse me. Kinte, history, family crest, and coat of arms. It's found in England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. Okay? It says the name Kinte. These are English letters we're using here. It says it's found in England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. So in order for you to understand the origin of where the name comes from, you need to understand what people occupy these territories, which we call England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. Okay? The origin of the Kinte name, this is the England we're using. All right? This is England. The origin of the Kinte name lies with the England ancient Anglo-Saxon culture. It comes from where the family lived in the country called Kent. We know that Kent was here before Wessex. We know Ethelbert, which was part of the Mosaic Law that King Alfred the Great instituted in what we call the Domes Book, was based upon all the cultures. All right, Ophir of Kent, which is Ethelbert of Kent, Ophir Mercia, and Neo Wessex, as well as the Mosaic Law going back to Moses. All right. So the name Kinte, an African name that is assumed to be, it's spelled in English, is known. It didn't say Africa over here, did it? You didn't see it say Africa. It says England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. The origin of the Kinte name lie with the England Anglo-Saxon culture. It comes from the family living in the county of Kent. The surname Kinte belongs to a large category of Anglo-Saxon habitation names. As a general rule, the greater the distance between individuals in their homeland, the larger the territory they were named after. You hear that? For example, people who only moved to another parish would be known by the name of their original village, while people who migrated to different countries were also known by the name of their region or country from which they came. Okay, this is when you see when Kunte Kinte got to North America, he ran into somebody from the Wolof tribe who spoke Wolof, because Wolof is one of the languages of the Mandinka tribe. You had the Wolof, you had the Fula, you had a couple of more. All right, so these were the languages that they spoke as part of the people who live in the Gambia, and we know that Kinte was a different village versus the other villages that was in Gambia, part of the kingdom of Nemuni, however you pronounce it. But it says that dealing with the surname Kinte, because his name was Kunte Kinte, all right? You see that word Kunte Kinte? It's close to the word Kent, all right? It's close, almost close to the word Kent. Early origins of the Kinte family, the surname Kinte was first found in Berkshire, where they held a family seat from ancient time. Some say before the Norman conquest of 1066. The first record of the family was that of Thatcham, shown in the Domesday Book as King's Land, containing a church and 2 mills. This is one of the Berkshire's oldest villages. We know that Berkshire is where the name Berber comes from. Okay? Parts of, no, parts of. The word Berber is found in London, and the word London is found in 2 places. Either is in England, which is in Berkshire, or Firth, which is in Scotland. All right, and we know that the word Kinte is also found in Scotland, Germany, Scotland, and England. And we're already looking at England. We ain't worried about Scotland, because the Scotland were the ones who enslaved Kunte Kinte. All right, and what we call West Africa. All right, because how the hell they know how to get to West Africa without knowledge of these people being there? That means that, as it said, these people were related based upon that name. What it said, for example, people who moved to another parish would be known by their name or their original village, while people who migrated, you hear that? Migrated to a different country were often known by the name of the region or country from which they came. Okay? Very important for you to understand that. So we're looking at the word or the name or the surname Kinte. All right? Very important. And we said that Kunte Kinte was enslaved by a slave ship called Lord Legionnaire. All right? And he was enslaved by other groups of people living in Gambia called the Koro. All right? And he goes back to the Arab tribe. When you go back to Mansa Musa, which was the founder of the Mandinka tribe. Okay? Yes, Mansa Musa. They were invaded by Arabs. Okay? They were invaded by Arabs. Very important for you to understand this. What's happening? Is my screen showing? All right, so let me show my screen. I thought I had it shown. Let's show you guys see this. I thought it was showing. Okay. So it said the early origins of the Kinte family, surname Kinte was first found in Berkshire. We know Berkshire is in London. We know London is where the word Berber comes from, or the surname Berber originated from. All right, it didn't say Africa. It says London, and London is found 2 places: England. London is found in Berkshire, and is also found in Firth, which is in Scotland. All right, we know Kinte surname was first found in Berkshire. Berkshire is not over in Africa. All right, it's located in England. All right, we know that when you watch the movie Roots, you're gonna see that Chicken George was the son of what's his name, Kizzy. All right, who was the daughter of Kunte Kinte. All right, part stuff. No, don't get me wrong. Yeah, he was the daughter of Kizzy, but Kizzy was raped by George Lee. Okay, but they all took reference in their grandfather's descent, and their grandfather was Kunte Kinte. All right, yes, their grandfather was Kunte Kinte. So as we can see, the word Kinte is found in England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. Once again, England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. We know England is Anglo-Saxon Berbers. That's who we are, all right? Anglo-Saxon Berbers, because the first English renowned year didn't come until 1066 when William the Conqueror invaded England. Prior to that, the only counter that was existing was the Berber counter, and these kings were ruling under that counter, all right? Very important you understand that. So going back to Kinte. Please, if you any questions, please ask. Please ask me. So we read plot one. Kunte Kinte was enslaved by British slave traders based off the crew that was running the ship called Lord Legionnaire. Okay, Lord Legionnaire. Very important to understand that. Lord Legionnaire. This is in the 18th century. Okay, the 18th century. So let's look up the Lord Legionnaire. Lord Legionnaire was the 18th century British slave ship built in New England that uploaded enslaved Africans in Annapolis, Maryland in 1767. The ship was made famous by Alex Haley's novel Roots, the Saga of the American Family, in which it brought his ancestors Kunte Kinte from the Gambia to the colonial United States. Did you hear that? A British ship that Alex Haley made famous in regards to the saga concerning the American family claiming to be descendants of ancestors from Africa. Okay, brought to Annapolis, Maryland, for a slave auction. Okay, you can watch it in the movie when you watch the movie. All right, but the name of the ship was for John Legionnaire, the first L of Legionnaire. Okay, very important. All right. For the sake of time, we're not going to read all through this, but you can read it up on your own. Let's look up Lord Legionnaire. First L of Legionnaire. Legionnaire. Who was this guy? Because they definitely didn't show you this on the video. Field Marshal John Legionnaire, first Earl Legionnaire, was a French Huguenot exile born Jean-Louis de Legionnaire in Castres, southern France. He had a long and distinguished career in the British Army and was appointed commander-in-chief in 1757. Did you hear that? During the 7-Year War, he also served as the Master General of Ordnance, effectively acting as Minister of the War for Pitt Newcastle Ministry. He retired from active duty in 1763 and died at his home in London on the 28th of April 1770. This is involved the Treaty of Paris of 1763. All right? Treaty of Paris of 1763. Good night. Okay. So who was this guy? John Legionnaire, first elder Legionnaire. Look at the bracket, everyone. Yes, a Protestant. Very important for you to understand that. He was a Protestant. All right? Look at his position that he held. Master General of the Ordnance, Commander-in-Chief of the Forces, Military Governor of Plymouth. Most key point was that he was the governor of Guernsey. All right? He was the governor of Guernsey. All right? Very important for y'all to understand that. 2 years later, he became colonel of the Black Horse. He was made a brigadier general in 1735, major general in 1739, and accompanied Lord Stair in the Rhine campaign, 1742 and 1743. He was promoted to lieutenant general on the 26th of February of 1742, and King George III made him Knight of the Bath in the field of Dettington in June 1743. At Fontenoy in May 1745, Legionnaire commanded the British Hanoverian and Hessian infantry. Okay? During the Jacob Rising of 1745, he was called home to command the British Army in Midlands. In November 1745, he led a column troop sent to Lancaster to oppose the rebels. Having been promoted to rank of General of Horse on the 3rd of January 1746, he was placed at the head of the British paid contingents of the Allied army in the Low Countries. So this goes back into the treaties of Lancaster. 1 second, y'all. All right, so he was the governor of Guernsey. All right, he was the governor of Guernsey. Guernsey was part of Normandy. All right, but this is in the 18th century, dealing with Louis the 15th. Okay, let's read this little part right here, because Louis the 15th was a Frankish king. He was president at Rocos, October 1746, and had been made lieutenant general of the Ordnance on 19th March 1747. He fought at Lobfeld in July 1747, where he led the charge of British cavalry. He did this with such vigor that he overthrew the whole line of French cavalry. In this account, his horse was killed and was taken prisoner by Louis XV, but was exchanged within a few days. The official dispatch reported. All right, so he was a key point is that he was a governor of Guernsey. All right, because he's doing this, he's playing this role on behalf of the government that's running the show. All right, he's running on behalf of the government that's running the show, and the government that's running the show is the a German government, because we know that the word Kinte is also found in Germany, Germany, Scotland, England, and where else it said? In Ireland, okay? England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. Well, we know that it's Germany who is invading Juffure and Gambia in the slave trade. All right, when Kunte Kinte was enslaved, he was enslaved on the ship called Lord Legionnaire. All right, under the Earl of Legionnaire, who we're talking about right now. Okay, he was a slave in the 18th century. This guy right here. And this was a real guy, supposedly. So let's see how far him being governor of Guernsey. Go back and let's check out Guernsey. All right, very important. Guernsey. Guernsey is the second largest island in the Channel Islands. West of continental peninsula Normandy. It is the largest island in the Belgic of Guernsey, which includes 5 other inhabited islands: Hearn, Sark, Alderney, Jethro, and Lihu, and many small islets and rocks. The Belgic has a population of 63,950, 63,950, and the vast majority of whom live in Guernsey, and the island has a land area of 24 square miles. Let's go to the history. First, let's look at the top. The island named Guernsey, like that of its neighboring Jersey, is a Old Norse origin. The second element of the word "a" is an Old Norse for island. New Jersey is an island, yes, and encompassed by 3 bodies of water. While the original root, hint the word root, is uncertain origin and meaning, possibly derived from either a personal name such as Granite or Warren, or from grown, meaning pine tree. History, let's go ahead. Middle Ages. In 933, the Continuing Peninsula, including Avranches, which included the island, were placed by the French King Ranulph under the control of William I. The inland Guernsey and the other 10 islands represent the last remnants of the medieval Duchies of Normandy. Did you hear that? The medieval Duchies of Normandy. About the year 1030, the fleet of Robert, Duke of Normandy, which was to support the claim of his cousin Alfred the Great, Edward the Confessor, to the English crown against Canute the Great, a Danish Viking, okay, was scattered by a storm and was driven down the channels to Guernsey. The Duke was taken to St. Michael's Abbey in gratitude for the abbot's hospitality. He gave all the lands within the close of the Valais to the abbot forever at the feast of St. Michael, with permission to extend this to the northwestern part of the island as soon as the settlers could be found to clear to cultivate the land. He gave them engineers and workmen to complete the castle of St. Michael, to erect such other forts as were deemed necessary. Around the middle of the 11th century, Guernsey was beset by a new breed of pirates who built a castle called Le Chateau des Saracens and the center of the island near the present church of Kinte. Duke William of Normandy, later the Conqueror, commissioned his esquire Samson d'Anville to fight them. As a reward, in 1061, he received half of the western part of the islands under the title of Fief d'Anville. Samson attracted a number of immigrants from Normandy to settle in his feudal estate, and Duke William distributed land to Guernsey to other Norman landowners, such as the states of Saint-Maurice, Les Bruninox, de Saint Martin, Mox Marquis, Rojas, etc. Pardon stuff from pronouncing these names wrong, but you know how it is. Okay. During the Middle Ages, the island was a haven for pirates that would use the lamping technique to ground ships close to the island. This intensified during the 100-Year War. When it started in 1339, the island was occupied by the Capetans on several occasions. The Guernsey militia was the first mentioned at the operation in 1331 and would help to defend the island for a further 600 years. All right, so we talk about Guernsey. We're talking about the 100-Year War. We're talking about the Capetian Dynasty, and we're talking about going back to, it mentioned King John, Treaty of Paris of 1259. We already talked about that. That was with Louis the Ninth. Louis the Ninth. Okay, we talked about Louis the Ninth. All right, so here we're talking about Guernsey. All right, and Guernsey in the 18th century was ruled by Earl of Legionnaire, governing a ship called Lord Legionnaire that went on the coast of West Africa to enslave those of the Juffure village of the Juffure town in Gambia. All right, and we know that this is the story that was told by Alex Haley in regards to us, our story here in what we call America. But no one has made the connection to who this fictional character called Kunte Kinte and why he was chosen to be called Kunte Kinte. All right, from the village of Juffure. Very important. So I'm gonna just go back over this real quick. Jersey, the origin of Guernsey, which is a toponym for the word Jersey, which we now call New Jersey. Very important because we have laws going back to the Plantagenet Kings in New Jersey. All right. So just for a key point, it says 933, the Continental Peninsula included the Aborigines, which include the islands, and were placed by the French King Randolph under the control of William I. The island of Guernsey and other Channel Islands represent the last remnants of the medieval Duchy of Normandy. About the year 1030, the fleet of Robert, Duke of Normandy, all right, which supported the claims of his cousin Alfred and Edward. We know we're talking about Alfred the Great. Part itself, Alfred Ethelred, part itself. But this is Edward the Confessor, all right? So Alfred Ethelred, let's just look at him real quick since I had it wrong. It's even more better. I'm glad I had it wrong so I can go back and correct myself. Talking about Guernsey, y'all. It's an Alfred and Edward. So Alfred is Alfred Ethelred. Okay, we know Ethelred is a noble name. All right. Alfred Ethelred was one of the 8 sons of the English King Ethelred the Unready, who was the son of King Edward the Peaceful, who was our Jesus Christ, who won the reincarnation of. So it's even better. He is the brother of Edward the Confessor, was the son of Ethelred's second wife, Emma of Normandy. King Canute became their stepfather when he married Emma. Alfred and his brother were caught up in the power struggle at the start of the end of Canute's reign. Okay, so we know Emma of Normandy was of Frankish descent. All right, yes, Emma of Normandy was of Frankish descent, but she married into the family by marrying Ethelred the Unready, the son of our Jesus Christ, which I'm the reincarnation of because it took me to be able to bring this story out. Okay, let's go back. So we see here, Alfred Ethelred and Edward's Confessor to the English crown against Canute the Great, all right, which was a northern Viking, but they made alliances together with the English kings, all right. It said here, Alfred and Edward to the English crown against Canute was scattered by a storm and was driven down the Channel Island to Guernsey. The Duke was taken to St. Michael Abbey in gratitude for the abbot's hospitality. He gave all the lands within the close of Bell to the abbots forever as a fief to St. Michael, with permission to extend this to the northwestern part of the Island as soon as the settlers could be found to clear and cultivate the land, and gave them engineers, workmen. They're talking about engineers and workmen to complete the castle of St. Michael and to erect such other forts as were deemed necessary. This is in the 11th century, y'all. The 11th century, and we're talking about Guernsey, and Guernsey is being well populated by ancestors before Earl of Legionnaire, who created the Legionnaire ship to enslave our ancestors on the west coast of what we call West Africa. Okay, they were enslaved by people who took over our authority, i.e., our body of politics. It's very simple. All right, yes, and includes William the Conqueror as well. All right, so where I want to go. Let's go back to Juffure. Juffure. That's what we're talking about. Juffure, also spelled Juffure or Juffure, is a town in Gambia, 30 kilometers inland in the north bank of River Gambia and North Bank Division near Kunte Kinte Island. The town and home of the museum Fort Juffure. All right, you know that's where the root story come from. the saga concerning the American family. They said the American family. What American family they talking about? Okay, they talking about the American family of Kunte Kinte here in America, because we were all family. Why? Because when he came over, he already seen his family here as well being enslaved. We're talking about the Juffure, though. This is the key point. History of Juffure. In 1651, a small plot of land from the village was leased by Jacob Kettler, the Duke of Cortland, from the King of Combo as part of the Caribbean colonization of Africa. All right. So we see Juffure, a village in Gambia and in West Africa, is being named by a guy by the name of Jacob Kettler. All right. Juffure was a part of the kingdom of Niumi, and by the 18th century, now we're in the 18th century, in the 18th century, the town had become the important center of the Atlantic slave trade. Did you hear that? The tall family of Juffure traditionally held the position of Belifo to the kingdom and were responsible for collecting customs revenue for passing traders and adjudicating disputes. The town took part in the Marabat revolt launched in the 1860 against the Niumi king Bunton. Demny, and as a result, the town was raised by royal force. All right, so this is later on. We're going back to the original origin of Juffure, which derived from Jacob Kettler. So here's this Jacob Kettler. Everybody know about Earl of Legionnaire, who had the ship called Lord Legionnaire, where Kunte Kinte was taken into slavery. All right, we understand that, and that was a result of other tribe members enslaving Kunte Kinte and selling to British merchants. All right, such as Lord Earl of Legionnaire on his ship, Lord Legionnaire. All right, now we're going back into the town called Juffure, where Kunte Kinte supposedly came from. All right, and Juffure goes back to Jacob Kettler, because we know that Kunte Kinte family goes back to time immemorial. It's supposed to. They don't know that because they have a limited history based off what they were taught. All right, because we know Juffure, the town where Kunte Kinte come from, only starts in what they said the 16th century, 17th century. All right, because we're talking about Juffure. Let's go back to it. I hold that thought. All right, let's see. So we see that Kunte Kinte was enslaved by Earl of Legionnaire on the Lord Legionnaire ship, which was a ship built in New England. All right, New England is over here. All right, we know that the village or the town where Kunte Kinte come from was called Juffure in Gambia in the kingdom of Naomi. All right, and we know the town of Juffure, or the village Juffure, goes back to a plot of land, i.e., the village leased by Jacob Kettler. All right, the Duke of Cortland, which is from Germany when they colonized West Africa through the Korean colonization of Africa. Okay, it's very important to understand that. Very important to understand that. All right, in 1651, a small plot of land from the village was leased by Jacob Kettler, the Duke of Cortland. Okay, the Duke of Cortland from the King of Combo. Go to the King of Combo. Let's see. Combo, sometimes translated as Combo, was a kingdom and later a chieftaincy in Gambia during the colonial period. Combo was part of the Mali Empire, gained independence after its fall, and was then ruled by Sambu Banuka clan. Mansa Karafa Yali Jata became the first king of Combo after seeking help from then independent Kabul Empire to establish the kingdom of Combo. He married the daughter of Banuk, Queen Wulingding Jesse of Sengang, who sits at Gunjur, and took her to Basumbala. Okay, so he was from the Mali Empire. I don't know who he is. All right, but he from the Mali Empire, and he leased territorial to who? Jacob Kettler. All right, the Duke of Cortland from the king from the Duke of Cortland as part of the Coronian colonization of Africa. Okay, so what is the Coronian colonization of Africa? Let's just see. The Coronian colonization refers to the colonization efforts of the Duchies of Cortland and Semingalia, today part of La Vita. Small but wealthy, the duchies took a modest post in European colonization settlement attempts of West Africa and the Caribbean. Like history, like Brandenburg, which had far larger German colonizing power before the formation of the German Empire, Cortland had a European crusading past. The colonies were established under Jacob, Duke of Cortland, and Semigalia, and were one of the two Lavitan colonies. The second colony was Gambia River in Africa during his reign in 1642 and 1682. The duchies established trading relations with all the major European powers. Did y'all hear that? So these were of the German Empire, allowed to colonize North Africa by an African descendant known as what they call the King of Zacumbo. Okay, why would he do that? All right, when Kinte was from Juffure, all right, claimed to be, was supposed to be ancient, if this is where Kinte family descended down from. All right, and we know Kinte is a name that was founded in England. It's associated with other territories, but the origin of the name was found in England because no other country speaks England but English people. Okay? So back to Kinte. As we can see, the word Kinte history is found in England, Germany, Ireland, and Scotland. So we break this down. England, Kent is found in Berkshire. All right. Kinte is found in Berkshire. We know Berkshire is the name where London is found, where the Berbers live, because the Berber name is found in London, and London is found in Berkshire. Okay, we know Alfred the Great, King Alfred the Great, and all his ancestors grew up in Berkshire, which is called England. All right. Now we also know the word Kinte is found in Germany. We know that Germany had invaded Africa under what they call, what's his name, Jacob Kettler, through the Courland colonization, all right, under the German Empire with the Handovian kings from King George I, King George II, King George III, all up to the Charles II are of German descent. Prior to that, the kings ruling at that time were the Scottish kings, where the word Kinte is also found, because when Kinte was enslaved, he was enslaved by British monarchs, who are the Scottish monarchs ruling the Kingdom of England at that particular time. Okay? Everybody see the mad scientist here? Everybody see what's going on? Okay, so we know Kinte was a Berber descent. He was an Anglo-Saxon Berber, going back before Alfred the Great, okay? Because the word Kinte was found in Berkshire. Alfred the Great ruled and grew up in Berkshire, England. I want it, all right? And he set the standard, all right? He set the standard. If Alfred the Great set the standard as a result of the of his descendants being converted to Christianity, like we're being done now, then it shows you what happened under the slavery of Christianity, as was shown with Kunte Kinte. All right, because his surname was Kinte. Kinte, his father's name was Omari Kinte. Kinte is an Anglo-Saxon Berber name. You must understand that. So, you know, when you're dealing with Kinte, Kunte Kinte was enslaved by Lord John Legionnaire, the first Earl of Legionnaire, on a ship called Lord Legionnaire. All right? Yes, called Lord Legionnaire. All right? And Kunte Kinte was from a village or a town in Gambia called Juffure. All right? We know Juffure was a village or a town that was given to Jacob Kettler by the king of Combo, all right? The king of Combo, who accepted the colonization on the territory that they call West Africa, all right? They accepted the foreigner on that land. When the Mandinka tribe was trying to keep them off, because the Mandinka tribe goes back to the 13th century, Mansa Musa, which were names that are not actually befitting these characters who played these parts, because they were actually Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay? Yes, Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Let's move forward. At the Guernsey, we know that Earl of Legionnaire, what's his name? John Legionnaire, governing the ship called Lord Legionnaire, was the one who was the governor of Guernsey. All right, he was the governor of Guernsey, and Guernsey had a rich history going back to who? Alfred of Ethelred, the son of Ethelred the Unready, the son of King Edward the Peaceful, who descended from Alfred the Great. Okay, who descended from him. I want to take us back here. In 1204, concerning Guernsey, we're taking it back to a time where we can understand or fit our story into the timeline. Okay, we want to fit our story into the timeline concerning Guernsey, not the story or the timeline going back to John of Legionnaire. All right, who started kidnapping our ancestors in the 17th century when our ancestors were the same as who we were in the 13th century, going back to King John. All right, very important for you to understand that as a result of the over uh, overthrow of the Plantagenet kingdom. All right, because King John was the son of Henry II, the son of Godfrey, the fifth Count of Anjou, which is where the name Jefferson comes from, which is also synonymously similar to what we call Juffure or Juffure. All right, where Kinte was from. All right, where Kinte was from. That's how John Legionnaire was able to come to Juffure, which is a village over in Gambia, and enslave those inhabitants there. They didn't go over to the Kora tribe and wanted to enslave them. The Kora tribe was helping to enslave the tribes of Mandinka. And Mandinka tribe have a rich history going back to the 13th century where John was ruling, the King of England. All right? We'll let go. All right, let's see. So most of Guernsey was soon cultivated. Around this time, the islands were divided into 10 parishes. Each free fief had a manorial court to hear disputes between tenants, and the abbots of St. Michael and the Legionnaire of D'Anville had the right to high jurisdiction and the privilege of trying and executing criminals respectively, so that the civil order of the island was fully regulated even before the Norman conquest of England. So now you're talking about the Clarendon Constitution and the size of Clarendon, but these were the courts created under the kings of the Plantagenet crown. Yeah, Henry II passed the Clarendon Constitution as well as the size court to deal with matters concerning property issues. All right. It's in 1204 when King John, the son of Godfrey, which I'm at the descendants down from, lost the continental portion of the Duchess to Philip of France. The island remained part of the Kingdom of England. You hear that? The islands were then recognized by the Treaty of Paris of 1259 as part of Henry III's territory. Did you hear that? Henry III is the son of John. All right, let's just make sure. You got it right there. House of Plantagenet, John, King of England. Westminster Abbey. Westminster Abbey was where the Benedictine ministries were actually created under the English Benedictine reform that goes back to Alfred the Great. Okay? You got to understand what's going on here, y'all. So the Treaty of Paris of 1259 as part of Henry III territory. The most important thing about that, all right? Because we know Guernsey, as we just see here, is a part of the territories of what we call the Kingdom of England. It has always been a part of the territories of the Kingdom of England, going back to the Treaty of Paris of 1259, okay? Of 1259. We didn't lose it until you came into what we call the 100-Year War. And the 100-Year War occurred by way of what we call the descendants of the Capetian Dynasty. All right. During the Middle Ages, there was a haven for pirates that would use the lamping techniques to ground ships close to the island. This intensified during the 100-Year War, when starting in 1339. The island was occupied by the Capetians on several occasions. Did y'all hear that? Did you hear that? All right. So they had a concentrated plan to overthrow the descendants of the Plantagenet crown, which are you, the descendants of Kinte. All right? The descendants of Kinte from the village of Juffure of Gambia, all right, of the kingdom of Naomi, all right, according to the fictional story. But that story is actually our story, which is the Anglo-Saxon story. Because I always say, he who writes your books, set your timeline. Time never was, but we were not. If the life of time begin, the time will become when we will be no more. And they broke that timeline. They're not using no Berber calendar to qualify the events that took place under the enslavement of Kinte under the ship called Lo Legionnaire by John Legionnaire. All right, they ain't talking about that. They're not explaining that this was an extension of the House of Hanover that was passed from the House of Stuart to the House of Hanover from Queen Anne to King George I. They're not talking about that because they don't understand that story. They can never understand the story because they are not these people. We are these people because we can take it back all the way back to 1259 when the Vikings, as they just said, was inhabited the territory what we call Jersey. All right, they were called pirates. It just said it. It just said it. Pirates, barbarians. Come on, y'all. You can't make this up. Are you following along, Brother Stoney? So the Capetian Dynasty, right? The Capetian Dynasty, after the Treaty of Paris of 1259 was already established between Louis IX, all right? Between Louis IX and Henry II. After that treaty was established, they still continue to overthrow and to take our estate from us. All right, that's all I want to know. It's about to get better, my brother. Check this out. So let's go back to the Capetian Plantagenet War. Because what happened to Kinte came from these Capetian Plantagenet kings. The Capetian Plantagenet Berber was a series of conflicts and disputes that covered a period of 100 years. From 1159 to 1259, during the House of Capet, rulers of the Kingdom of France fought the House of Plantagenet, also known as the House of Anjou. You hear that? Who were the rulers of the Kingdom of England over the Plantagenet-held Angevin Empire, which at the peak covered around half of the territory within France. Some historians refer to this series as the event of the First 100-Year War. So we talked about, before we even get to that, let's go back and trace back Jesus Christ's descendants, all right? Because yes, Jesus was a Berber. None of y'all knew that, did y'all? Jesus was a Berber. The Capetian Plantagenet knew that he was a Berber. They knew it. They knew it. I got the proof to show it. Let's show it. They knew about his death. They knew about his burial. They knew about where they was going to hide the story at, in that cave. And we know a cave is something that you hide stuff in. All right? So let's look at the Shroud of Turning. All right? No, let's look at the Crown of Thorns. Because you can't get to the Shroud of Turning until you deal with the Crown of Thorns. Right? We're going to end up with the Capetian Dynasty. This is where we're going to end up. Back to the Capetian Dynasty. All right? Which were pirates who overtook Guernsey, which is part of what we call the Channel Islands, which is a toponym called Jersey, now called New Jersey. All right? We know that Guernsey was in the 18th century ruled by the British merchant under what we call John Legionnaire, Earl of Legionnaire, and Earl of Legionnaire controlled what they call Lord Legionnaire, which is the ship to enslave the inhabitants of the village of Juffure in Gambia by other tribes that lived in Gambia who were working for the enslavement for what? Guns. They show you that in the movie. All right? For guns, for power. All right? And you're going to see the similarities of the Berbers, all right, who are assumed to be for lack of understanding who Berbers are misnomer with these other people, which I'm going to clear that up today. All right. So it says here, according to the New Testament, a woven crown of thorns was placed on the head of a person called Jesus during the events leading up to his crucifixion. Crucifixion, we know what cruce is, cross, and we know what fiction means. Not true. So the crucifixion means the covering up of Jesus' so-called death, ascension, resurrection, incarnation, personification, all right? Which is nothing more than the incorporation into that office called the king, all right? But you need a firstborn for that. A firstborn, a primogeniture heir for that position, all right? So we see that, and that seat was protected as we see through all the Masonic lodges that ever existed, the Order of the Holy Sepulchre, the Knights of Templar, the Knights of Hospitality, the Benedictine monasteries, all the other monasteries that existed. And we know that it came to the head, at its head, through the English Benedictine reform that was headed by Alfred the Great, Edward the Elder, Atherton, King Edgar the Peaceful, which was the highest time of the ringing of the English Benedictine reform, which was a global event. It was a continental reformation. Okay? Coming in with a cold, forgive me, y'all. It was one of the instruments of the passion employed by Jesus' captors, you hear that? Both to cause him pain and to mock his claim to authority. It is mentioned in the Gospel of Matthew, Mark, John, and is often alluded to by early church fathers such as Clement of Alexandria, Oregon, and others, along with being referenced by the apocryphal Gospel of St. Peter. All right? Since at least around the year 400 AD, a relic believed by many to be the crown of thorns has been venerated in 1235. The Latin Emperor Baldwin II of Constantinople yielded the relic to French King Louis IX. It was kept in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris until the 15th of April 2019, when it was rescued from a fire, moved to the Louvre Museum. So the crown of thorns was in the possession of Louis IX, given to him by Emperor Baldwin II of Constantinople, going back to the Constantinople who created the fabricated story or the fiction story going back to the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, which goes back to the Christianity imposed upon the descendants of the kings of Wessex, which we call the kings of Kent. All right, we know the word Kinte comes from Kent, and Kent is where Ethelbert of Kent descended down, who was just before the kings of Wessex, which were they are all was one family. Okay. So it said that the crown of thorns, which is supposed to be the relic in which Jesus was used to crucify Jesus, was in the possession of a Capetian Frankish king Louis IX. All right, that's dealing with his crucifixion. Then he was taken off the cross by Joseph Rismail, put in the tomb, and then resurrected. And the proof of the resurrection, which was called the Shroud of Turin, which make reference to the based off the DNA study, make reference to the Golden Grail, which deals with his bloodline, his descendants, his heirs. All right, very important for y'all to understand that. All right. So the crown of thorns wound up in the hands of Louis IX. Let's stop that. Now like we said, now we're dealing with the Shroud of Turin. So that's all. The Shroud of Turin. History. History concerning the style of turning. There are no definite historical records concerning the particular style currently at Turin's Cathedral prior to the 14th century. You hear that, y'all? A burial cloth, which some historians maintain was the shroud, was owned by the Byzantine Baldwin II, a Constantinople emperor, but disappeared during the sack of Constantinople in 1204. All right. Although there are numerous reports of Jesus' burial style or an image of his head of unknown origin being venerated in various locations being before the 14th century, there is no historical evidence that these refer to the style currently in turn. Historical records seem to indicate that the style bearing the image of the crucified man appeared in the village of Liary in north central France around the year 1353 and 1357. It was owned by a French knight, Godfrey de Charny, who died at the Battle of Poitiers in 1356. Did you hear that? So who is this Godfrey of de Charny in regards to the style of turning? Because we already know that the hands of the crown of thorns was in the possession of Louis IX. Okay, given to him by Baldwin II of Constantinople. We have that proof. Now we're talking about the style of turning being in the possession of a French knight called Godfrey de Charny, who died at the Battle of Poitiers. So here's Godfrey de Charny. Let's see. Godfrey de Charny was a third son of Jean de Charny, the Lord of Charny, then a major Burgundian fortress, and Marguerite de Joinville, daughter of Jean de Joinville, the biographer and close friend of Francis King Louis IX. Why does this king keep coming up? Louis IX. All right. So we already see that Louis IX already had in his possession the crown of thorns, and all of a sudden now he in close relation with Godfrey de Charny, who's in possession of what we call the style of turning. All right, concerning Jesus Christ. All right, or the last image of the face of Jesus Christ, which also based off DNA testing is going to refer to his bloodline. Okay, so it says that a renowned knight who fought in the French side during the early years of the 100-Year War. Charny wrote a semi-autobiographical poem, The Book of Godfrey de Charny, and set a question on chivalric matters for a short-lived company of stars, contrast to the Order of Garter that was established by who? Edward III. Okay? Of the Plantagenets in the crown. So Godfrey de Charny established his own order, contrary to the order established by the Order of the Garter, when all your kings are actually a part of. Let's just see. As you can see, Order of the Garter, founded by Edward III, and you see all the monarchs all the way up to Charles III. It's higher than George. Next higher is George the Cross. All right, let me just go back up here. George the Cross and Order of the Thistle. All right, George the Cross and Order of the Thistle. All right, let's just look at these two real quick. George the Cross. St. George. That's the white flag with the red cross in it. St. George. the patron saint. All right, and also order of thistle. This is amazing, y'all. The most ancient, most noble order of the thistle is an order of chivalry associated with Scotland. The current version of the order was founded in 1687 by King James VII of Scotland, who asserted that he was reviving an earlier order. The order consists of sovereigns and 16 knights and ladies, as well as certain extra knights, members of the British royal family, and the foreign monarchs. The sovereign alone grants membership of the order. They are not advised by the government as occurs in most of other orders. All right, did you hear that? Did y'all see that? Order of the Thistle. It was St. Andrew. St. Andrew. St. Andrew's Island, Kunte's Island, which became St. James Island. Okay, y'all better understand what's going on. All this is rooted in the order of the thistle, which hides the secrets. Let's look at the order of the thistle. Let's look at it. Where is that? Y'all see that thistle? It's called the Scottish thistle. Remember that, y'all. Remember that. It's going to come back up again. All right, let's see. So we see Garfield de Charnay. So Garfield de Charnay was the biographer and close friend of Francis King Louis IX. All right, as we can see that. He also was the one in possession of the Style of Turning. And King Louis IX is also the one in possession of the Crown of Thorns. All right. So according, if he's in possession or knows the person in possession of the Crown of Thorns and the Style of Turning concerning the story of that individual put in that tomb, all right, then is these points of origin that we need to examine in regards to the realization of what story really occurred. Okay, which is what I'm giving you now. All right. Yes, this story was kept sacred, because it all goes back to Kinte. Kinte was enslaved by Lord Legionnaire. And Lord Legionnaire was the governor of Guernsey, going back to Guernsey, who was ruled by the Duchess of Normandy. And Duchess of Normandy goes back to the Plantagenet crown, which was ruled by Godfrey V, Count of Anjou. All right. We must understand what's going on. Let's see. I'm going to go with it now. Let's go ahead. Uncovering the source of DNA. Very, very reliable source, y'all. Somebody pull that up. Scientific report uncovering the sources of DNA found on the turnings of Stroud. Okay, now we all know who's in possession of the Stroud turning, right? Louis IX, Godfrey de Charny, they all had a part to play in it. We also know who was in possession of the crown of thorns, Louis IX. We also know who signed the treaty of between the Plantagenet and the Capetian Dynasty, who Louis IX was descendant of. All right. We must understand because these are the part of the story that are missing in regards to understanding who we are. Let's go to the evidence. Don't get mad at us. Examination of human DNA. Mitochondrial DNA haplon from the turnip style as the identification of the mitochondrial DNA haplon group. Among the 93 mitochondrial DNA amplicons generated in subsequence, a large number of different human sequences corresponding to three distinct mitochondrial DNA loci: MT, DLOOP, MT-CO1, and MT-ND5 were identified. This result not only indicates that human DNA was indeed unequivocally present in dust forms in the Turner star, but also that the source of the human DNA could be ascribed to numerous individuals. In fact, the mitochondrial DNA haplotype were found to belong to different branches of the human microDNA tree. Even after having excluded all the mtDNA sequences that could be theoretically attributed to operator contamination, supplement table S3. Moreover, not only were the observed mitochondrial DNA haplotypes numerous, but they could also be affiliated to many distinct haplogroups. 6 sub-branches of haplogroup H, which consists of H1, H2, H3, H4, H13, and H33, are included, as well as representatives of the haplon group U2, U5, RAA, R7, R8, L3C, and M339, and M56. All right, you can see the tablet for that source. The number of proportions of red clusters derived from the different TS samples of each of the identical haplogroups are shown in Figure 2, together with a schematic overview of their current geographic distribution. Some haplogroups are widespread, while others are geographically and ethnically more localized. See supplementary tablet S2 for detailed information. For instance, haplon H1 is very common in Western Europe, with the frequency peak among Iberians, but also among the population of northwestern Africans, including the Berbers. Haplogroup H4 is instead present at low and rather similar frequencies in western Iberia, which is 3%, in Eastern Europe 1%, in Caucasus 3%, and the Near East 1%. Haplogroup H33 is rare and mainly found there, thus far among the Druze and minority populations of Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. All right. Haplogroup U2 is found largely in South Asia, with a percentage of 5%, but one of its subsets, U2E, is present in Europe with a frequency of 1%. Haplon group U5 harbors an average frequency of 7% in modern European populations and is a major subbranch of U5A and U5B, are most common in Eastern Europe and Western Europe, respectively. Okay, but the key point that is said at the highest peak is with H1 and H2, right here. Let's see if we can see the tablet right quick. Let's see if this is happening. It keeps going somewhere else, so I think we'll bypass that. Where did it go? Curtains. Okay, so as you can see here, is this the tab? No, that's not it. Saga. All right, so we have here key point. All right. Brother Kevin Newby, what you mean by fermentation diet? What is that? I don't understand your comments, my brother. All right, so here we are dealing with the proof that the DNA found in the what they call the study of the Stroud of Turnage conclusively established that the DNA found on it was indeed of the haplon group H1 through H33. Okay, it says number and proportions of relics, red clusters derived from the different Turner Stroud samples for each of the identified haplon groups are shown in Figure 2, together with the schematic overview of their current geographic distribution. Some haplogroups are widespread, while others are geographically, ethnically more localized. For detailed information, for instance, haplon H1 is very common in Western Europe with a frequency peak among Iberians, 25%, but also among the population of northwestern Africa and including the Berbers. A very high percentage, all right? A very high percentage. Well, we need to further investigate this, all right? Because we're talking about the descendants of Kinte over here, all right? Which is based upon the struggling saga of what they call the American family. Not all American families, because families are denoted by their family name, okay? Their family name. And our family name are Anglo-Saxon Berbers, okay? Because the word Kinte is spelled in English. Those people speaking of another nationality don't speak English. So why are they making reference to English? When you see in the movie, you're going to see that George Lee, known as Chicken George in the movie, went and was free in Hampshire, England. All right, and the depiction where he gets over to Hampshire, England, in regards to being sold back into slavery by George Lee, his father by way of incest, sleeping with his mother. It'll show you that even under the servitude as what we call a slave, the man was living good. All right, he was talking trash about the servitude that his people were under over here versus the condition that he was over there in Hampshire, New England, and he got his freedom papers over there. All right, this is where he received his freedom papers. All right, based off his limited understanding of what was being taught to him and his children, because his family could read. All right, but they were told what they could and what could not, what they could and what they could not read. Okay, a majority of it was nothing. All right, so we got conclusive proof about not just the resurrection of Jesus, but the bloodline of Jesus. All right, which is predominantly northwestern Berber descent. All right. I use that term Berber for a reason, which we're going to now. Encyclopedia Britannica. All right. Encyclopedia Britannica. The Encyclopedia Britannica, Latin for British Encyclopedia. Did you hear that, y'all? The British Encyclopedia. So I'm not even using Wikipedia. I'm using the Encyclopedia from Britannica, all right? Which is Latin for the British Encyclopedia, is a general knowledge English language encyclopedia that has been published by Encyclopedia Britannica Incorporated since 1768. Although the company has been changed ownership 7 times, the encyclopedia is maintained by about 100 full-time editors and more than 4,000 contributors. All right, let's get to the history. All right. As you can see, that thistle, that's their logo. The thistle. Let's look at that. Surnames vulgare. The spear thistle, bull thistle, or common thistle is a species of the Astrosarcaceae genus Surnames, native throughout most of Europe, Western Asia, east of Yangtze Valley, Northwest Africa, Atlas Mountains. It's also naturalized in naturalized in North America. Africa and Australia is invaded and is invasively in some areas. It is the national flower of Scotland. Did y'all hear that? It is the national flower of Scotland. So this encyclopedia is an encyclopedia from Scotland. Can we all agree with that? Can we all agree? Because it originated in Edinburgh, Scotland. You hear that? Scotland. All right, so we're going to use their record to validate our truth as Anglo-Saxon Berbers. All right? Anglo-Saxon Berbers. So once again, a recap what we just talked about. We understand that roots is a story that was told to us here in North America for the people of assumed or misnomer as the African race. Over here we call the black or Negro race. Okay? The black or Negro race. The first story that they created for the black and Negro race was a story called Roots, created by Alex Haley in reference to a descendant of an African tribe called Kinte, all right, who was from the village of Juffure in Gambia, in the kingdom of Naomi, all right, and he was enslaved by merchants on what they call the ship called the Lower Legionnaire by what we call the first Earl of Legionnaire, all right, and the first Earl of Legionnaire was the governor of Guernsey, all right, when it was unlawfully being ruled by de facto monarchs, all right? Because we know Guernsey goes back to what they said, Ethelred, Edgar, what's his name, Alfred of Essling, Edward the Confessor, and all those were descendants of King Edgar the Peaceful, because Aston of Essling was the son of King Ethelred the Unready, who was the son of King Edgar the Peaceful. All right, very important to understand these facts because under Edward I, the Scottish got their independence in 1295. All right, they were expelled from England. All right, that territory. They migrated here and took over the land that was governed by the French through the Treaty of Paris of 1763. The Treaty of Paris of 1763 was the treaty made with the Frankish kings going back to the Capetian Dynasty under the control of what we call Hughes Capet. Hughes Capet, Louis IX descended down from Hughes Capet, all right? And the Capetian Dynasty were born with the plantation in the crown, which Edward I descended down from under the authority of Godfrey V Caliban Jew, which is where the name Godfrey or Juffure or Juffure originates from. Okay? Very important for you to understand that. And they were all Berbers. All right? They were Berbers. Let's prove it. They were called Anglo-Saxon Berbers. They weren't Jews. They weren't Africans because Africa would have their own calendar. All right? It wasn't Mandicans because Mandicans would have their own calendar. Okay? We must put these things in the right sequence to understand how they function because it all involves mechanics. All right? You must look at this from a mechanical state of mind. All right? It needs to be able to be operative. Operative. All right? From the beginning to the ending, all things must work in sequence. All right? And we got to give you sequence. And the only way you can use it can be in sequence is by its creator. And the creator of the record is the calendar. All right? So let's go to those, as I said, he who writes your books, set your what? Timeline. Time never was when we were not. As the life of time began, the time will come when we will be no more. Let me just show the calendar. I'm sorry, I thought I had to show it. Encyclopedia Britannica. Scottish Thistle. Country, United Kingdom, United States. All right, to the present. Did y'all hear that? All right, let's go to the closing. Encyclopedia, 1911. Encyclopedia of British, Encyclopedia Britannica. All right, for the word Berber. Listen very close, y'all. 1911. One second. AD. In the year AD, the Berber year is 951. There is no English king here. Okay? There is no English king, but there is a Berber king that's about to be crowned. And that's King Edgar the Peaceful. He became king in 959. All right? This is also where your story in reference to Jesus Christ comes in. We already been through this, all right? Already been through this. But as you can see here, calendar, all right? You don't see an African calendar. You got an Iranian calendar. You got an Islamic calendar, all right? But they're not the Berber calendar. Berber has its own calendar, as we can see, all right? There is no English calendar because the first English king didn't come in until William the Conqueror invaded in 1066. Prior to that, all the kings governing that territory were Berber kings. Let's prove it in closing. So Kinte, surname which arrives from Berkshire, and London is found in Berkshire, and the word Berber is found in London. Okay? Once again, the word Berber is found in London. London is found in Berkshire or Firth. We know Firth is associated with Scotland, and we know that Berkshire, where London is found, is associated with England. And we know that the word Kinte is found in Berkshire, not in Gambia, but in Berkshire. It's an English word, so it should be found in Berkshire. All right. It's also associated with Scotland, Ireland, Germany. All right. But we're not Germans, we're not Ireland, nor are we Scotland. We're English, but English were governed by the Berber calendar. Okay. So let's look at the Scottish Encyclopedia of 1911 that was created in Edinburgh, Scotland, which symbol is the Scottish thistle. Okay? And look what they say about the Berbers. Okay? Not no regular student, teacher, philosopher. These are the ones who created the Encyclopedia of Britannia. These were monarchs who wrote this encyclopedia. All right? Berbers, the name under which includes the various branches of the indigenous Libyan race of North Africa. Since the dawn of history, the Berbers have occupied tracts between the Mediterranean and the Sahara, from Egypt to the Atlantic. Talking about ethnology, all right? Not about no color of skin, not about some group you want to be a part of, but ethnology, ethnicity, all right? Not even race, ethnicity, bloodline, genetics. The origin of the name is doubtful, though. Some believe it to be derived from the word barbarians, which is a Greek word, employed first by the Greeks and later by the Romans. I didn't write this, they wrote it. Others attribute the first use of the term to the Arab conquerors. We know that Arabs were the ones who invaded what they call the tribes of Mandika tribes. All right? Yes. When you go back to Mansa Musa, they were invaded by Arabs. All right? The Arabs were the conquerors who invaded. You only conquer something when you take it. I mean, it's called prescription of sovereignty, acquisition of sovereignty. That's what it's called. All right. However, this may be a tribal title, Barbara or Barata, appears in Egyptian inscriptions of 1700 to 1300 BC. We're not Egyptians. The Egyptians got their own calendar. They didn't say the Berber calendar. They said Egyptian inscriptions, which means they will be using the Coptic calendar. Okay. And the Berbers were probably intimately related with the Egyptians in very earlier times. All right. Thus, the true ethical name may have become confused with Barbary, the designated naturally used by classical conquerors. Did you hear that? So Barbary, Barbara, all those were the names used by conquerors. We know that the conquerors were Arabs. We know that Arabs were the ones who invaded not just Africa, but they invaded Jerusalem through the time of what we call the Crusade. And we know at the time of the Crusade, Jerusalem was ruled by the Plantagenet forefathers, which were the Counts of Anjou, under Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, and their descendants spoke the first, which was the House of England. All right. Thank you, Sister Brother Thomas. Thank you very much. This is what we do here. Okay. Thus, the true ethical name may become confused with Barbary to designate naturally used designation naturally used by classical conquerors. Very important right here. To the Egyptians, they were known as the Lebu, Mashahu. Pardon myself if I'm pronouncing these names wrong. Mashuasha, or the Tamahu, or the Tehunu, or the Kahaka. A long list of names is found in Herodotus, and the Romans called them Numidae, Gatuli, and Mori, terms which have been derived respectively from the Greeks. The name Guelola of a great Berber tribe, and a Hebrew Maor and Wesley. Okay, so everybody had their name for us. To speak of a more modern times, not the ancient times, to speak of a more modern times, they can be enumerated with the Zahut, the Zuowa, and the Jabali, i.e. of Tripoli and Tunisia. We know the last crusades that took place under Louis IX, all right, who was in possession of the crown of thorns as well as the Stride of Turnings through his relationship with the Frankish kings, all right. We know that he had a hand to play in this, all right, because we know the last crusade or the eighth crusade took place in Tunisia. This is also the Chawiya, the Kabils, and the Benai Mazab of Algeria, the Shulu of Chalua, the Amazigh, and the Berbers of Morocco, the Tariqs, the Arnasogs, the Sargut, and etc. of the Sahara. These tribes have many sub-tribes, each with a distinctive name. Among the Asgard, an important division of the Tariq, one of the noble or free tribes styled Argohim, pardon self, y'all, is said to descend from the tribe named Agrigha. The Agrigha, or Africa, is in ancient times occupied the coastland near Carthage. And some scholars derive the word Africa from this name. Okay? See Africa, Roman. In regard to the ethnic relations of the Berbers, there could be much dispute. The antiquity of their type is evidenced by the monuments of Egypt, where their ancestors are pictured with the same comparatively blonde features which many of them still display. The Aborigines of the Canary Islands, the Kuntes, which seem almost certainly from the remains of their languages to have been Berbers. But the problem of the actual origin of the Berber race has not yet been solved. Perhaps the most satisfactory theory is that of Sergi, who includes the Berbers and the Mediterranean race. General LLC Faharbe regards them as indigenous Libyans mingled with fair-skinned people of European origin. Dr. Franz Pruner Bay and Henry Druvier and Professor Flinders Petre maintained that they are closely related to the ancient Egyptians. Connections has been traced between the early Libyan race and the Cro-Magnon and other early European races, and later the Basque people, Iberians, Picts, Celtics, and Gauls. The megalithic monuments of Iberia and Celtic Europe have their counterparts in Northern Africa, and it is suggested that these were all erected by the same race, by whatever name they be known. Berbers and Libyans in Africa, Iberians in Spain, Celts in Gauls, and Picts in France and Britain. All right, so everybody had their name for us. In spite of the history, foreign conquest, Phoenician, Greeks, Romans, Vandals, Arabs, and French, the Berbers physical type, you hear that? The Berber physical types and the Berbers' temperament and nationality have persisted since the Stone Age. The numerous invaders have naturally introduced a certain amount of foreign blood among the tribe, fringing the Mediterranean, but those farther inland have preserved their racial purity to a surprising degree. That's like if you go to the heart of Africa, the concentration of the people and the blood pedigree of the people remains the same versus outland. All right, just like if you would go here in North America. North America, the main part of the bloodline will be most central in North America, which be the territories encompassed by the French and the Spanish. All right, versus the outer lands, which encompass the shore, because most of the conflict came in those areas. All right, that's very important for you to understand. The numerous invaders have naturally introduced certain amount of foreign blood among the tribes fringing the Mediterranean, but those farther inland have preserved their racial purity to a surprising degree. Very important to understand that. Though considerable individual difference of types may be found in every village, all right? Every village. We're talking about Kinte from the village or the tribe of Juffure. The Berbers are distinctly a white race, and majority would if class and European customs passed unchallenged as Europeans. You hear that? That's the same thing happened in Africa in Juffure when the land was given by whatever the African king called Cabral or whatever his name was, Combo, to what's his name? Jacob Kettler. Okay? To him, who was of German descent. So let's continue to go. But their frequency has been considerably overstated. You hear that? The invaders who have most affected the Berber race are the Arabs, but the two races with a common religion, often a common government, with the same tribal grouping, have failed to amalgamate to any great extent. The facts have been emphasized by Dr. R.G. Latham, who writes, all that is not Arabic in the Kingdom of Morocco, all that is not Arabic in French provinces of Algeria, and all that is not Arabic in Tunis, Tripoli, or in Fez is Berber. Did y'all hear that? Is Berber. I'm going to read it again. All that is not Arabic in the Kingdom of Morocco, all that is not Arabic in French provinces of Algeria, and all that is not Arabic in Tunis, Tripoli, and Fez is Berber. The explanation lies in a profound distinction of character. The Arab is a herdsman and a nomad. The Berber is an agriculturist and a townsman. The Arab has built his social structure on the Quran, which inculcates absolutism, aristocracy, and theocracy. The Berber, despite his nominal Mohammedanism, is a Democrat with his Jimna or written mark, or his Qanun or unwritten code, the Magna Carta of the individual liberties of the opposed to the community's good. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? The Arab is a herdsman and a nomad. The Berber is an agriculturist and a townsman. The Arab has built his social structure on the Quran, which inculcates absolutism, aristocracy, and theocracy. The Berber, despite his nominal Mohammedanism, is a Democrat with his Jimna, or what they call written mind, and his Kanun, or unwritten code, the Magna Carta of the individual liberty as opposed to the community's good. Did y'all hear that? So I have to prove to you, based off the English, based off the 1911 Encyclopedia Britannica, all right, that the Berbers are the Anglo-Saxon Islamic English people, because the Wittamont, they call it Jimna, and the code of Magna Carta, they call it the Kanun. Now, which one would you rather refer to? The Jimna or the Wittamont? The Kanun or the Magna Carta? Because there is no legislation, statutory laws making reference to some Jimna or Kanun, but there is legislation or codes of law as well as precedents in reference to what we call Wittamont and the Magna Carta in regards to our true estate, our true ethnicity, our true nationality as Anglo-Saxon Berbers. Okay? Anglo-Saxon Berbers. So with that, I'll leave you in the spirit of our ancestors, King Edgar the Peaceful, which means rich in spirits, spirit-sided, agnatic succession, primogeniture, patrilineal descent. If you are of this class, please leave a message or a chat or a comment in the comment box, as well as continue to study and show yourself approved here at the Third Temperament English Church of England, because we're at the ending stage of our ascension. Okay, of our ascension. All right. So all those who are members of the Third Temperament Church, Archbishop sent out a notice for all those who are claim to be members of the 13th Church. You must be present at that formal meeting. All right. It's not predicated upon me, but it's predicated upon who you see upon the screen. And that is King Edgar the Peaceful, the true image of the Star Returning, which was kept sacred and buried by those who hid our story, which was the Capetian Dynasty, who descends from the Merovingian or Carolingian dynasty, who never claimed to be descendants of God. All right. So with that, I love you, and I greet you all in peace as I greeted you as we first met on this platform. And with that,